Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Apologies for the stream. The stream crashed just as I went live, so we've had to set up a new one. Apologies to everyone waiting there, but we're on now and we're back. Adam, what colour was your arrow in game week 10?
Do you know? I don't know. I think
you have one job every week, Adam, right? The podcast is called The Green Arrow, and I ask you every week, what colour is your arrow? And you always say, I don't know.
Do you know what? I've stopped, just to put this into context, I've stopped checking my live rank and my rank all the time. So I know, I think I got 72, 73. I might have scraped a green. Am I right?
Yes, you got a green. You're up to 516k.
Well, that's good. Three or four greens.
We've all had, all three of us, I've had a look, we've all had greens for like the minimum of the last 4 or 5 weeks, which is pretty good going for the Green Arrow. Do you want to just run us through your team?
Yeah, and we've all got different teams as well, which is quite good. So, yeah, I think the reason I was a bit unsure is my transfers cost me a little bit, or my transfer. So I got 73. I've got my team's Pope, James, Trippier, Cancelo, Justin, who came in for Mitrovic. Then had Zaha, Maddison, Bowen, Martinelli, Kane, and Haaland. So I'd returns from Haaland, Kane, Bowen, Martinelli, Zaha, Cancelo, and Trippier. The frustrating thing is the two decisions I had to make, I couldn't have ballsed up anymore if I'd have tried. So I took out.
Hang on. Wait.
Oh, right. Okay. We're waiting for some music.
Ready for this?
By any chance? Yeah, go for it then.
Now you can give a review of the game week.
So yeah, I took out Saka and bought in Zaha. So that was about 10 points down. The idea was financial reasons, and it sort of played into a longer term game.
So it's like Liz Truss, mate.
I know, yes, exactly. I don't think my Saka transfer is as bad as this trust. I think that's a bit unfair. But it didn't work out. I mean, they obviously Arsenal had a dodgy penalty as well, which sort of rubbed salt into the wounds. And what made things worse is Villa had an identical, even worse one that wasn't given, but we won't go on about that. And then my other decision was to put first sub James Justin instead of Andreas, but I didn't see that Andreas wonder goal. I mean, it's a great finish from him. I mean, on the grand scheme of things, fairly happy. It's gone okay since I wildcarded. I've got 2 free transfers this week with flags for James and Mitrovic. I think I might need both of them.
Yeah, same. I think we're the same boat there, because there's flags everywhere in it, and this is going to be one of our main topics of the evening, because my team, as you called it earlier, Adam, before, when we have a look, I'm Flag FC, so we're going to have a look. Rich as well, you've also got some flags. How are you? How was your holiday first?
Yeah, great holiday. Yeah, a nice week in the Spanish Villa with some really old friends that I hadn't seen for a while. So yeah, it was really good. How old are they? Didn't watch them. Oh God, they're really old. Too old to mention for the audience here. But there was no telly in the Villa, so that was good. I did get out to a bar to watch the Manchester derby. That was the only match I saw while I was away, and the team did well while I wasn't really doing much in the way of FPL. I still listen to the podcast. I still listen to the Green Arrow, but I had a really, really good couple of weeks since I've been on. So shot up to about 25k, I think, and delighted with the wild card. I haven't really had to do much to it, apart from I think I took Mitrovic out last week for Wilson, because I had 2 free transfers and just thought it was a bit of a free swing really while he was injured, and Wilson got an assist, but at least that's 1 flag less for me this week due to that. So quite happy, but yeah, delighted with the start.
Absolutely flying, Rich. 25k this early in the season is really, really good going, and we all seem to have just shifted up a bit, haven't we, in this last month or two? So very well played, everyone.
Thank you.
A quick look at my team. 78 points, really happy. Dominic Solanke, 8 points, Adam. No violins for Dominic this week. He was.
I think he had like 2. he had 2 touches in the box or something, but both of them. I mean, it was a bit lucky, weren't it?
8 FPL points made. He was unlucky last week. He should have had penalty after penalty last week.
Yeah, I don't know, but no, you're right. 8 points, 5.78 million. Great value. So, well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, happy with
They're
that.
doing all right. Bournemouth are doing all right, aren't they?
They are.
4 wins or something, isn't it? It's 4 wins.
They are, and they're unbeaten in quite a long time. I think now 5 or 6 games.
Well, since the 9-0, isn't it? So Gary O'Neill's unbeaten.
All right, okay, cool. But I have got a lot of flags, which we're going to touch on in a bit. I think I've got 3 flags plus a non-playing Emerson, so I'm in a bit of trouble, and I'm really, really not sure what to do. Adam mentioned free hitting in 12, and while I think it would be a bit of a, it sounds like a disaster, but then I do want to keep up a decent start and not just fall away. I'm not sure. A lot to think about. But talking of free hits,
I mean, you could free hit, couldn't you? Because you could. Bournemouth forgot Southampton, so you could triple Bournemouth for a free hit.
A bill in Solanke. And
yeah.
Someone else. I can't even think who. Kiefer Moore.
Yeah, Smith or Mepham or Nico in goal. Yeah, Neto in goal. So yeah, Nico. What am I going on about?
But talking of free hits, let's go to our other Violin moment. So yours, Adam, was our one Violin moment this week, but the other Violin moment of the game week was for Luke Daly, who messaged me. So talking of free hits, so this guy, his team, he had an excellent team this week. Let's have a look at the team he had. He had Ward in goals. He had Cancelo, Trippier, James, Andreas, Son, Saka, De Bruyne, Kane, Daka, and Tony. So he would have had. Well, he scored 84 points this week, which you think, where's the violin? Where's the violin? 84 points. The travesty was he hit the free hit button this week.
What?
So his old team would have scored 84 points. In his free hit team, he had double Villa defence, who obviously conceded against Forest.
Yeah.
Double Chelsea defence, including Thiago Silva, who didn't play, and Reece James, who was on the bench. He did have De Bruyne and Foden, but he also had Sterling, Zaha, Rashford, Haaland, and Wilson for a paltry 46 points, so a 38 point.
Why would you free hit that team? I mean, his team was good on paper. Why would you do that?
Classic.
Slip of the mouse.
Slip of the mouse, indeed.
Yeah.
That has to sting. So, Adam, you have actually entered the honorary violin club this week after
I feel privileged.
Saka one, but Luke Daly is also in after that beauty, that 38-point cost on the free hit, which is exactly what I'm probably going to do in game week 12, but we'll talk a bit more about that now. That is it for Violin Club this week, only a short one this week. Okay, Rich, on to Rich Pickens. What are we talking about this week?
Okay, right. So I don't know whether you want to look at the fixtures first, but
got the fixtures.
We've got fixtures up on the board. So I mean, this edition of the Green Arrow, we're very much focusing on the next 2 game weeks as a section. We won't have time to do another pod on Monday, so really we're looking in some detail at both game week 11 and 12, and really it's all about navigating our teams through these choppy waters. You've heard Fergie mention that his team's got 3 flags. That's possibly an average number of flags, because we have to get our chosen Manchester City and Arsenal assets that we want to retain in our sides through to the safe harbour of game week 13. So there's those questions to answer, which leaves us without any bench cover whatsoever next week. So I think the where we should be focusing our transfers in this week and next is on putting out fires and potential fires. So I think if Fergie can just jump ahead to a little graphic with some players pictured. This is a combination slide. We know we've got injury worries for Reece James. We know Trent Alexander-Arnold is out in many teams. Mitrovic is still yellow flagged, and also just if you don't know, you've got 2 key highly owned players like James Maddison and Gabriel Jesus who are on 4 yellow cards. So if they get a if they get a yellow card, particularly Maddison this week, he won't play on Tuesday or Wednesday either. So that means another person who could be in our squads that we need to move on. So it could be that we're going into next week with 7 or 8 players that are just not available. So really, every transfer is highly precious, to say the least. And if at all possible, we should be, as rule number 1, we should be trying to take 2 transfers into game week 12, so that we can learn off this weekend and make as many many moves with free transfers as we can. But that may be a bit of a luxury for most of us because of the immediate worries. So that's really a summary of what we're going to talk about.
Just on that, Rich.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because you said about taking 2 transfers into game week 12, do you think there's a case, and we talked a little bit about it last week, of just damage limitation right off game week 12 and put yourself in a stronger position to come out the other side for game week 13?
I do.
Yeah, I think it looks like there's more upside. I mean, there's a lot of people to be wild carding around them, the people that have kept it. And then you're going to have Liverpool have got great fixtures, City have got great fixtures, who else? Arsenal have got great fixtures. I think Spurs have got great fixtures. So, whereas if you look at the games in game week 12, Liverpool, we're not going to be sure on what team they'll put out. It's just after the City game. West Ham are the 3rd best defence. You got Man United versus Spurs. Chelsea is a lottery. Who's he going to put out in that game? You'll probably have a very different team to what he puts out at Villa Park. So it just, to me, I mean, the teams that have got good fixtures are probably teams you're not going to want to invest in long term.
No, I agree. I'm personally, I may be, a bit of an anomaly, but I want to take through 4 players from City and Arsenal if I can.
What are you going to say? 4 from City? I would love 4.
No. Well, City. yeah, exactly. But Martinelli, I'm not going to sell Martinelli. His form's too good, and he's up nearly 0.7 in value. And I'm only going to want him back in game week 13, as you say. So I'm planning to take through Foden, Cancelo, Haaland, and Martinelli, which really means I want to try and get the best 10 players I can for game week 12. But I'm not going to bust a gut. If I'm not going to start taking hits, for instance, to do that. If I'm there with 8 or 9, then that's fine. But I do recall, the previous blank game week at the end of last season, it absolutely destroyed my season when I went in with a low number of players and listened to all the narratives about going with 7 or 8 and got absolutely destroyed. So it is a risk going through, with light on just the number of players you're fielding, because if a couple of things go wrong on the day, then you're just looking at a really poor score.
Couldn't you argue that was largely down to, because it was Son that did a lot of the damage that day? So if you covered the key, it's about the key players, I think, that's more important.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because when you look at it, there's a lot of players from teams like Bournemouth, potentially who've got good fixtures. Southampton obviously played Bournemouth in 12, Crystal Palace. There's not many exciting players, and I don't see loads of upside. I think, but there are probably a few in game week 12 that could have big upside, and it's just how do you get them in and make sure you cover them?
I think Leicester at home to Leeds is quite a good fixture for both Leicester and Leeds, actually. Newcastle home to Everton, I think, could be a good fixture. I know Rich, for example, has already got Wilson in, but there are players there like Almiron, Bruno Gomes, St. Maximum, all the defenders there. Brighton home to Forest as well. If Brighton really turn up on Friday night against Brentford and play as well as they did against Man United, and I thought they were quite unlucky not to score against Spurs as well, but there's options there as well. I do think that there is potentially high upside, and also let's not forget, I don't think any of us 3 have got any Liverpool players yet either, and they're home to West Ham. So I do think there are options there, especially Brighton home to Forest. I can see Brighton really turning them over. I appreciate your point, Adam, and you're right around covering the key players, but we've got so many fires in our teams at the moment, like Reece James, Mitrovic, players like that. That getting in Trossard, for example, would probably be the one you would look at. is a very much a luxury transfer. Who probably we'd be taking a hit for at the moment. So I'm not sure that the free. And I don't know if it's the devil on my shoulder, but I haven't completely ruled out free hit yet in game week 12.
I think there's more upside on free hit. I mean, there's talk. Obviously, we've got a potential double game week either in 16 or 17 after the World Cup with Brighton and Palace, I think double game weeks are great to use free hits because you know you're going to get those extra games and extra upside. I think the not the royal wedding. What am I going on about? The coronation that could throw some. I just think there's going to be enough opportunities. I just think when I look at the fixtures, there isn't. I mean, yeah, okay, Trossard could do well, Liverpool could do well, but there isn't. I don't think there's many fixtures there where I can really see a thrashing and a high upside, or premium players with a high upside.
It does. So it does. Is the 1 week though where there is the potential for high variance because there's no Haaland. There's no. The captain's going to be all over the place because we've all been captaining Haaland for 10 weeks.
Trossard captaincy against Forest. How exciting is that? How exciting is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you are right. There could be a lot of variance, but I think most of that is going to. I think Trossard you've mentioned fairly low owned, who could be in the equation, but the other one where I think it will come down to is Liverpool and how they do. And it'd be interesting because after last night, Salah obviously looked. I mean, it's a really difficult one to assess the Champions League because, I mean, with Liverpool scoring 7 and Rangers were poor, and obviously there was that one of their main centre backs goes off and gets injured. So it's not. I don't know if it's that straightforward. And the goals, I mean, particularly the Salah goals, they were very poor from Rangers' point of view. So I don't know how much we can read into that. I mean, Klopp's talked about maybe Salah will play as one of the two in the 4-4-2 system. That could be interesting. But then does that put risk for the likes of Firmino and Darwin? Yeah. I'm interested for both of you. Your plans on Salah, have you written him off? Do you have a Salah plan? And what do you want to see from him this week? Maybe Fergie, do you want to talk through that first?
Yeah, I think I've said all along with Salah, I'm a big believer, and I've said this season on season with Liverpool, is that it only takes a game week or two for the big teams to switch form completely and for world-class players like Salah to switch form completely. And I think what I've said is, and this is why I've kept De Bruyne, this is why I went for De Bruyne, is I've always wanted him as an option, as a 1 week, as an option, a straight hop onto Salah if I wanted to. Now, looking at what we saw last night, obviously the formation had a massive impact because watching Salah on the weekend against Arsenal, he just wasn't in the game. He's just wide on the right. He was even in the right back spot. I even saw him in the centre back position at one point last week, where when you look at that and you just think absolutely no chance. However, if he starts against Man City even up front in a 4-4-2, even if he doesn't score or look very well, for me it's all about where he plays. If he's playing in the centre and he's playing up front, even an off form Salah is a massively dangerous character, and I think he would be a superb option for the captaincy. I think it's all around it. It's obvious Salah's off form, but Liverpool are also massively off form. I think if Liverpool goes up front, if Salah goes up front, I think he's a different proposition as it currently stands. All things being equal at the moment, I'll probably go De Bruyne to Salah in game week 12 as my default sort of transfer, and probably captain him, but only if they keep the formation on the weekend against City, I think is where I sit.
What do you reckon, Rich? Because both you and I own Kane, so it's 2 transfers really to get Salah. So where do you stand currently?
Yeah, I think if I had De Bruyne, I think it's an easy move, I think it covers you. And if you've got $500,000, you can do it. Maybe even less than that now. But basically, I've got to sell I've got a Kane and one of the 8 million boys to get to Salah. I can do it because I'm planning on taking 2 free transfers in. But Kane's been scoring every week.
Yes,
every single week. He's got 10 returns in 10 weeks, and his fixtures are pretty good till the World Cup. You know,
he's got 8 He scored in 8 consecutive league matches, hasn't he?
You know, he's almost justifying his price, apart from the fact that Haaland has just got the taken the captaincy out of the game. So I might keep Kane. He's got a good game this week. He's clearly going to want to play well up until the World Cup. But if, say, I think what will clinch it for me is if, say, Maddison gets booked at the weekend and is suspended next week, which creates another flagged player, then the temptation to come off Kane. I've been playing around and seeing if I can get to Darwin Núñez instead of Kane and still have the money to go up to Salah. And I think I'm a little bit short, depending on who I buy for, say, Reece James or something.
Same, yeah.
I've been having a look at it. I don't think I can quite get Darwin. I can have anybody other than Darwin. I could have Firmino, for instance, as another option. But I don't really want Firmino long term. I don't really want Salah long term. You know, it's only really for game week 12, and so I'm not sure it's worth all the upheaval. But my issue is, like many, I don't have a really standout captain if I don't make that move, because I think Kane's away at United. That's quite a tough fixture. I don't own Trossard, who's probably the other captain candidate with the great fixture. But, you know, there is Zaha's got a good game against Wolves, and Maddison himself's got a good game. So there are options to captain. So I think I'll just carry on probably putting out the flags, you know, and actually trying to get 10 players out who are going to play the game, just bring in some talisman, and then carry the 4 through and hope I get the points back, you know, with maybe even, as you said at the beginning, carry those 2 free transfers to game week 13, and then have match the wild card as to have 6 players from City and Arsenal for that game week 13. So that's kind of my other strategy, the non-Salah strategy, I suppose.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think one of the challenges with bringing in Salah is I'm not sure there's many strikers that I want, but as you said already, I don't own Saka anymore. I'll stop crying about that. Foden as well. There's a lot of midfielders that I want, and I've got 4 spots to get them in and rotate. Kane solves that problem in that he plays 90 minutes every week. He's actually returning well without being explosive, but you know that could come in any match. I mean, he scored, like I said, in any other season, he'd be
top scorer. Yeah,
exactly. And I think from game week, I think the Man United one away is tough, but I think from that point onwards, he could easily match Salah, and he doesn't need. This is the key thing. It's not about Kane matching Salah. It's about Kane, and there's about 1 million, and it's about whether Kane and your midfielder versus Salah and the forward that you could have. Where I think I'm looking at, I could probably get Tony. There is a way I could get Darwin, but I'm not sure that I'd want to go double Liverpool. I haven't seen enough, and there's a few doubts as to what Darwin will get minutes as well.
Darwin's not necessarily a good pick for game week 12, is he, to bring in, because he could be benched. You know, it's not guaranteed to start. He'll probably start, but he's not like bringing in, say, Dunk or somebody who's just, you know, is going to start the game if they're not injured. You know, so I'm just not sure about Darwin just yet, but I think he's a good option.
What about
it's tough, isn't it? It's tough.
So,
it's tough.
Yeah.
If you've got no way to Salah in game week 12, you know, I'm not saying for 1 minute that Salah is essentially in game week 12, but say, for example, you know, as expected, he does play up front. He does quite well, looks very dangerous. His next 2 fixtures after that are Forest and Leeds. I know we're permacap Haaland, but, you know, you never know, right? There could be room of a rest, or, he may get injured, which absolutely means that Salah would go into game week 13 and probably 14 as, you know, as the best captaincy option. What would you thinking be there even if he just plays well in game week 12? Would you still not, you know, would you still be happy not having any way to get to him, or would you consider then a kind of a -4 or wherever else off Kane?
I think as soon as the time to go on him is game week 12, and I think if I decide not to do it then, Kane's a viable captaincy option. He's got Newcastle at home, Bournemouth away. They obviously play Liverpool. You could argue that's a better fixture for Spurs than it is for Liverpool. And then they've got Leeds at home. So I think if I decide, I think the mistake that I've seen people make, including myself in the past, is when you jump between, or let's say Salah Halls against West Ham, and you try and find. It was. Remember last season? I think I got rid of Salah.
We both went on Fernandez, didn't he? And he hauled.
Yeah, and Salah hauled. And I thought, I'm just not going to go back then. I'll try different routes. And that's ultimately what led to me getting like KDB's big thing. And I think the reality is as well that Haaland probably will play all 4 matches. They're through in the Champions League. He'll have minutes in all of them. And you're going to have to be pretty brave not to captain Haaland. I don't see a situation unless it's a 99.9% chance he's benched. I don't see a situation where I won't captain him, and I'll be comfortable putting the armband on Kane as well. So yeah, and I think Liverpool have got a little bit more to do they've got a little bit more to do in the Champions League than City. So yeah, and I think I could see Klopp messing around with it and putting Salah in, right midfield, then up front, then some minutes taken out when they're 2-0 up. Then I think it's, for me, it's game week 12 or nothing at the moment anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it normally does, Fergie, not owning Salah. Normally you need a massive sofa when you haven't got him, and you need to hide behind it or go out and just not watch the game because you just can't stand the sort of swarming all over the goal that he normally does. It doesn't feel like that. And so therefore, Liverpool aren't scary. They're probably about the 7th best team in the league or something. But
that would change if Salah was playing in this 4-4-2 system.
I think it would change.
If he was playing up front with Firmino, with Darwin.
I think if he plays up front against City, I think he'll score against City.
I do as well.
Because they're not... They always give up a couple of big chances, City. And if he's playing up front at the point, I think he'll score. And then I think that's when we'll see like a sea change of, oh my goodness, we've got to get Salah, which, it all depends on the eye test observationally against City how he plays. Because if he plays well against them, if he plays well in this year as he did last year, go into the next three. Rich's
it'll be a cracking game, isn't it? It'll be about 2-2's my prediction. It'll be 2-2 that game.
Do you really?
I think so.
I think City will beat them, but I think Liverpool will score a goal or two.
Big game. Kev will score. De Bruyne will score. Hold De Bruyne. Don't swap in.
But I think that's it. That, do you know what? Actually, thinking about it, the with the fixtures, I mean, I suppose people might have Foden, but I'd fancy De Bruyne to at least match Salah anyway, with the way he's been playing. And he's got 3 home games in 4. He's so good at home. He's so good. I mean, yeah.
Well, he's not going to match him in game week 12. And then there'll be people hopping on the Foden from 13 onwards. So
but very, very true.
Yeah,
very true.
Foden is the right second attacking pick for City, in my view. I'm not going to sell him. I'm going to keep him, and obviously it allows me to have Kane instead of De Bruyne, and I'm quite happy with the ones I've got. So I don't see it's worth messing it up for 1 week.
Okay, so strikers then. This is the thing that puts me off Salah at the moment. Is I can see Kane solves a problem there, but if outside Haaland and Kane, Jesus doesn't play in game week 12. You've got uncertainty of Darwin and Firmino, who will get minutes. How will Liverpool line up? So if you're going to go for the Salah option, who is that other striker? Who is that one that so let's say it's Kane and Bowen, Kane and Foden, Kane and Maddison, Kane and Zaha, Kane and Trossard, whoever it is, there's so many options. Who is the Salah and equivalent? Loads of people have got Mitrovic and Haaland. You've probably got Wilson possibly in there, but who
I've got Wilson already, so I can't have him twice. I've got to go to someone else.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't. So who are the options? Who do you go for? And
I've been doing a few reviews this week, and I've been tipping Edouard to people. as a cheapie. Yeah, 5.3 million, scored in the last two. Good Palace fixtures. A little bit of a kind of Solanke type situation, isn't it? With an enabler from a cost perspective. He could end up being dropped for Mateta or whatever, but he's scoring in the last two, and he's only 5.3, so he's only slightly more than a fodder. So that he's an option.
I agree.
Welbeck's an option with the next two games. But yeah, if you've got, it all depends how much you've got. Scamacca's an option.
I like Scamacca, but then Liverpool away, you're not going to be. And actually, I think with Scamacca, with Welbeck, with who's the first person you mentioned, with Edouard, I think there's possibilities all three of those players could miss the midweek game for various reasons. You think maybe Antonio at Liverpool. You think Moyes will change, rotate the minutes with Antonio and Scamacca. You look at Edouard. Vieira's got form for rotating his strikers. And I think that midweek game, I think Palace play on the Tuesday as well. So it's earlier in the week. So, and who's the other one that you mentioned? And Welbeck, I mean, with his injury record, I think last time they had a midweek game, it was against Fulham, wasn't it? When they lost 2-1, I think he was rested or didn't start that. So I think that's, for me, that's that you look at it, and then Wilson, like I said, Wilson's an option, but then he's not if Mitrovic isn't fit. So there's a lot of.
Well, Mitrovic is the one I think with the Reece James money, I could probably go back to Mitrovic and do that, assuming, of course, he's back, but we don't know that yet, do we?
Just before we move on to Reece James and the Fenners in general, I got to apologise to Dal again because we got straight into the conversation. I forgot to say hi to everyone in the chat again, so I'm just going to say it quick now. Apologies to everyone again. I did the same last week. It's because we just get so engrossed in the conversation straight away. But Stephen Moore is in, Dan Megan, The One Jukebox, FPL Bob, Chris Yulden, Helga Ridningen, A1, Michael Brooker, Brian Schofield, I'm 1974, James Thompson, FPL Sparta, Ross Johnson, who apparently is on the cross trainer, watching us live. So I told him not to spill his kebab. Got the same points exactly as the One Jukebox, Stephen Moore, Abdul Rahman, Cabs, Jan Kilofsky, and so many others, and obviously Dal. James Harding is in as well, and FPL Finding Glory. Thank you so much for joining us all. And now we were just going to talk about Reece James. Mism Tech says, do we keep or sell? Good question. Rich, what are you thinking about Reece James?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this probably most of the afternoon, actually. Until I saw the update that came out mid-afternoon, which was, I think it said something along the lines of, unlikely to play in the Villa game, but, possibly available for the midweek game. I think that's roughly what the update is. That's not that helpful, is it? Because it just gives you kind of the thought that he might be back soon, but gives you another player that you can't rely on in midweek to start the game. I mean, you might end up making a bench cameo or something in that game.
Yeah.
And so when you think about those two events, plus afterwards Chelsea's fixtures, I think they then play United in 13, and they play Arsenal in the running up to the World Cup as well. And both of those are their last two home games. They also have a couple of tough away games. So you look at the fixtures for Chelsea that Reece could play, and you start thinking, I might not even buy him back. I think I can just lose him.
Yeah, definitely.
And also he's an incredibly difficult player to pinpoint his hauls. You own him and he goes 0-1, 0-1, 0-2, 2, 17, 0-1, 2, like that. And you if you're on the 17 and you've captained in, happy days. But it's like throwing darts. You just don't know when you're going to hit something, do you? It really is. So actually, I think I'm quite happy to sell him and sell him this week and just get some funds in. Go down to a sort of 4.5 level or below defender, 4.6 level or below defender. We'll look at those options in a minute. But that then will free about $1.5 million to help in game week 12 with those two free transfers. Because it would just help with some of the options to get to Salah as well. If we were just talking about who to come off Kane for, you can probably get a better striker and use that money to get to Mo. So I quite like that as an option, not necessarily committing, but you can buy a player that will see you through those 2 games. Yeah. So I think for me, he's a likely sell, subject to team use tomorrow. But if you want to wait, then you've got a decent bench this week, play one of your bench defenders. I mean, I've got Tyrone Mings. I could play him. I don't know what you think against Chelsea, Adam, but I could put him in and hold Reece.
Yeah, we could bore them. There is that chance. I think Chelsea could fall asleep.
Yeah. In all fairness, Adam, it was a really good point on Monday evening against Nottingham Forest, I thought. I've been asked in the chat by Dal, Gerrard in or Gerrard out. What's your latest thoughts on that?
Oh, he's got to go. I don't think he's the only one. I think we need a new director of football. We need to look at the structure of the club. I think the last 3 games, oh my word, they've been the 3. I mean, actually, probably throw the West Ham game in there, but we've had 4 of the absolute worst games to watch.
I find it so strange because I was watching the lineups. I was looking at the lineups. You know, when they bring up Martinez, they bring up the back 4, and I was like, oh, it's not bad. The back 4, midfield 3, I thought rock solid, and then the front 3, I thought, wow, I do think when you look at Villa's team on paper, they're 11. They're a really good team, not kind of top 6 or something, but maybe could have 9th or 10th sort of job. But
I think
they're just not playing like it. Really. It's unbelievable.
Is he playing not to lose football or something? Is that what he's...
Partly, I think I think he's probably had a bit of backs to the wall. Let's just try and be solid to keep his job ultimately. But the biggest problem Villa have, there's 2 actually. I think Gerrard has struggled since Michael Beale left in the summer. We didn't have a great pre-season because our new coach couldn't go to the pre-season tour in Australia. And Michael Beale was the brains, is the brains behind everything. There's an article that came out this week just with Emi Martinez saying it was so strange that in all the team talks, Michael Beale was doing most of the talking and Gerrard was quite quiet. And he just said his knowledge is insane. When you look at the Championship, in the top 3, you've got Norwich and QPR. So you've got Dean Smith and Michael Beale, the managers there, and it's just both of them. I'd rather have than Gerrard. Tactically, it's really bad, the setup. We play too narrow. We play far too narrow. So what tends to happen? Somebody posted, I can't remember who it was, but somebody posted a comment: would Gerrard want to play in this team? There'd be no space because we play so narrow, it's congested. There's no space for midfielders to make runs into. We can't, we're not dragging people out of position. Tactically, we are so poor. And when you look at when you look at some of the other British coaches, Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, and what they're doing at, Howe joined Newcastle at a similar time to what Gerrard joined. And you can just see, I know he got a few shoe-ins at Bournemouth, but what he did do is he set up a team to play in a style that was probably above the level of the players that he had, but it was progressive football. There was a clear strategy. There was an intensity. There was pressing. He wouldn't change his style when he was playing the bigger teams, so they did ship goals, but it really suits taking that and putting it into a bigger club. And he's done an incredible job, and I'm watching it with envy really, because I think Newcastle, they hired they took Brighton's director of football. They took Potter. They brought in Howe, and they've done it the right way. Villa, it's terrible, and Gerrard does need to go, but we need to be very mindful. I don't think it's just Gerrard. I think we need to look at the whole structure of the club as well. So it's not simple, and I don't think you can sack him unless you got anybody to bring in, and I don't know if they have. So,
okay. Anyway, back to the.
Would you sell Reece James?
yeah. Let's talk about that. Yes.
Back on topic.
There was the other point I was going to add is I think Potter has already shown his hand in rotation as well. So if we take out the injury, you factor in the Champions League, where they're probably going to need to maybe get 4 points from the last 2 games or whatever it is they need to get to qualify. You think he's starting those Champions League games, if fit, which means we think he's going to miss the Villa game. He may not be fit for the Brentford game. He'll probably play the United game. He'll probably play the Champions League game. Then he'll miss one of the easier games. and he'll play the Arsenal game. So he's going to be playing the game.
And they'll concede against United and Arsenal, I reckon, as well, because they're hardly tight at the back. So
exactly, and he'll be playing the games you don't want him to play. So I think for me, unless we get news that he's actually fit for the weekend, I would get rid of him.
Look how Rich has frozen. Oh, Rich frozen now. There was no if you saw him, but he was in hysterics.
No.
He was like in hysterics for a minute, and he's froze. He's just gone off heel. James Lee said Rich laughed so hard he's frozen, and PSV Rich is loving this. Rich will be back on now. That was class. We'll have to clip that one. Looking at the total predicted points while we're still on defenders. So these are the predicted points for the next 6 game weeks, which incidentally now are the 6 game weeks until the World Cup. So this is it now. Yeah. There is not one defender in the top 20 for predicted points, which says something. And this is what makes it tough, I think, in terms of Reece James replacements, because I've been having a look and it is not very exciting. What's your thinking at the moment, Adam, on defenders to pick?
Well, I think if you don't have Cancelo and you don't have Trippier, I would go there personally. But I think just breaking it down. So if I'm going through looking at each of the teams, so if we start with the top teams, so obviously City and Arsenal don't play, so you'd rule them out pretty much straight away as an immediate transfer. Spurs, I think their wing backs are just a nightmare, and you're just going to cause yourself pain if you go Perisic, if you go any of those. I do think maybe Dyer, maybe Romero could be steady options, but then in 12 they got United away. So again, and then Newcastle followed that, who are actually performing well from an attacking perspective. They've got Liverpool further down the line, so I'm not sure on that. You look at United, don't think I'd want to go there. Chelsea, the rotation. We talked off air about Chalobah. I think he's a good shout. I think Azpilicueta could be a good shout. But do they both? I can see him playing almost 2 completely different teams against Villa and Brentford. So, or being like 5 or 6 changes. He's shown form for that at Brighton. He's shown form for that at Chelsea already. So that makes it challenging. So we sort of looked at the top 6 teams. So then when you're going outside of that, you're really looking at 4.5. Most people have got a couple of Newcastle, but they've got a tough fixture this week. So you're looking at, your 5 million, sub 5 million defenders. Bournemouth are probably one of the few teams that have got a good run of 3 fixtures, I think, which nobody's really mentioned. So I think there's options in Bournemouth. I think who else would I look at? The one that I like, but I just don't like his game week 12 fixture is Zuma. He's got a catastrophic game week 12 fixture. So,
very good.
Oh, he got
for a sec. Very
good. Straight over your head. I've been working on that all day.
It's all in the delivery.
I know, but I like West Ham. What we said, touched earlier, 3rd best defence, and they've got Southampton and Bournemouth. So if you're looking at it as a 3 game week spell, he could get 2 6s and a 2. What's that? 14 points. So which is good. And I could genuinely see them getting that. So I think he's a good option. I don't really fancy anyone from Fulham. I just don't trust them. I think they'll concede both games. Yeah, it's
tough, isn't it?
It is. There's no one exciting. I agree with you, Rich, about I think there's 2 things actually. I think taking the money out of defence makes sense. So I think the James down to, and this is why I'm a bit off Dyer. I think Dyer probably pound for pound is the best replacement, but I think you can go, if you look at say Dyer versus Zuma, they've got Spurs have got in the next 3 have got Everton, Man United, Newcastle. I can see 1, possibly 2. I think 1 clean sheet in that. I think Newcastle and Man United will score. But then you look at Bournemouth, who've got West Ham have got Southampton, Liverpool, and Bournemouth. And I can realistically see the way they're defended, clean sheets against Southampton and Bournemouth.
Yeah, possibly. I haven't really thought about Zuma. I'm sort of on probably Dunk or Webster and or Guehi as the move, or Guehi or Anderson, the Palace player. Just because obviously the fixture is better in game week 12 for both of those players.
Agreed.
But you just know they're going to play, and that's the. I also can't bring myself to bring in, even though Liverpool have been a bit iffy. Bringing in Zuma when he's got Liverpool away. It's just so you might be queuing up for some minus numbers if they
possibly
hit 5 or 6 again. But I think the Southampton and Bournemouth, if you're doing it this week, is West Ham defender's not a bad shout.
I think if you look at what I've looked at, so I think I've looked at it as like 3 games. The problem with, and we get it with Brighton as well. And if you're going to be starting them, you may not have to start them in game week 13.
No. Well, I've got Mings to cover. Tyrone Mings will cover.
Yeah, or you could transfer to an Arsenal defender potentially.
Yeah.
But I think maybe rotating the 4.5s is the way to go between now and the end of the season. So a lot have got Trippier and Cancelo. I like starting both of them. I actually think Newcastle will get a few clean sheets, maybe even when we don't expect them to, because I think they've got some good numbers, particularly defensively. And, Pope could actually get a 10-pointer in an away game against Spurs or United, where he's a lot of saves to make. So I don't really see the value in making a transfer there.
They're not very inspiring, are they?
No,
they're not. But they're very necessary.
You're right.
And I think
right.
that 1.5 million will help in the next few weeks as well. It will help you get, say, I don't know, from Zaha to Saka, or it will just help you in 2 or 3 moves. As I say, bring Saliba in 13 or 14. It will give you money and options to do those moves easily, even though they are a bit dull. Plus, one of the Brighton guys against Forest, they might well score, So,
well, I think going Webster over Dunk I would do, because I just think for the 0.1, particularly when we're talking about Salah, Darwin, other players, I think I don't see there's much difference there personally.
There's not a lot of difference.
So who's your number one defensive pick, Rich? Who are you going to this week? James 2.
I was going to go to Dunk just purely because he's got more history of scoring.
He's pretty good on bonus as well, I think. Isn't he?
He hasn't done it yet. Yeah, and he is he captain? Isn't he? Is he the captain?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I just think he's sort of just more nailed. Webster's nailed, but I just sort of think maybe the 0.1 is okay. I mean, if you sort of got some elaborate plan to get to Darwin as the third striker and you really need to stretch the funds, then Webster might get you that extra 0.1. But I think I'll probably go Dunk. Or I was, until the James news came out, I was thinking of just doing Neco Williams to Mark Guehi, and because I've got 0.2 in the bank, and I could just do that one move, wait on Reece James to see if he recovers, and then just put Guehi on the bench this week, and that's even more dull. Sorry,
you're about to do that move because Williams, you can only sell him for 4, can't you? Or did you buy him at 4.1?
I bought him at 4.1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I like that move.
Yeah.
I actually like that move. I've considered the Williams move as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Williams is just, he's now rotatable with Aurier. I think we might get a clue from the weekend match as to who will start in midweek. So I don't think either of them are going to start both. So
the only problem with that move, if you do that, and I don't know, because your team is set up similar to mine, so it may not be the case for yours, but it makes it quite hard to get Salah not selling James this week, because you'd have to realistically you'd have to sell Kane.
Mm-hmm.
So
and go all the way down to an Edward or something like that.
I think it takes away options, and I think there is a possibility that Williams plays against Brighton, and I know he might only get 1 point, but do you know what? 1 point, it's I think we'll be taking 1 pointers in game week 12 from players. I really do.
Yeah.
A couple of people in the chat have mentioned that Wolves defenders for the next 2 or 3 could be okay. Apparently Totti, who's 3.9, is due to start the next game. I think his Collins is suspended, but that is maybe a 1-game punt. But Wolves look okay defensively, haven't they? And we've had a few questions just around because the Hub predictor shows Salah top for predicted points for the next 6 weeks overall. Obviously, that is heavily weighted with the fact that City and Arsenal have one less game. But Jota's up there as well. with 29 points. Firmino and Darwin aren't in there, but it's all around this expected minutes. It's incredibly tough to, I mean, who starts, right? Who starts out of Jota, Nunes, and Firmino? So I would just look at Jota's sort of predicted points there, which are 29 over the next 6 game weeks. And if you think Firmino and Nunes are going to start over him more, then go for them. But it's really, really tough.
I think looking at the next 2 game weeks in particular, because I think that's where the pain is, because then you could shift to Saliba or Ben White or somebody. Looking at the hub predictor, and I've done up to 4.6 million, because I think taking money out of defence is well worth it. So top for the next 2 is Lewis Dunk. So well done, Rich. Done your homework there.
Yeah.
Justin is second.
Yeah, okay.
And then you've got Veltman, Smith, and Webster. So it really likes Brighton, but Smith from Bournemouth.
Okay.
I think if Mitrovic is out, because they've got Fulham without Mitrovic, Southampton, which they offer nothing. So there's 2 very, very good fixtures there. And the way they're playing, I could see potentially 2 clean sheets. But that's only if Mitrovic is out. If he's fit, I wouldn't do it personally.
Yeah. So you've got Justin, haven't you, Adam? Would you out of the 2, because he's also 4.3. So if you had a straight choice between Guehi and Justin, who would you get this week?
I'd probably go Guehi personally. The reason I went Justin is that I liked him for the 2 games that I needed him for, and I think this is one of the. It was the Leeds game actually, and to be fair to Leicester, their expected goals conceded at home is quite good. It's the goalkeeper that's the issue really there.
Yes, right.
They defended fairly well, but I think the one player we haven't mentioned who I think is better than Guehi is Anderson. I think he's worth the 0.2 upgrade if you can get to him, because I think set pieces he looks more dangerous. I think he's better on bonus, and if I'm going to be starting him, I'd be a little bit more confident starting him than Guehi. But we're talking about, I mean,
fine lines, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's no option I'm excited about, and I'm not.
No, Justin was just had that fantastic period before he got injured, didn't he? About 18 months ago, when he was absolute mustard, and he was
mopping up bonus points every week.
Yeah, it was
max bonus.
Fantastic. So he has the potential, doesn't he, to get an assist or something?
He's got something, but I mean, I'm not particularly.
Who's your number 1 James replacement then, Adam?
I think if we're doing it for 2 weeks, I think the solutions after that, I think you've got to go for people, and the assumption you're going to be playing them for the 2 weeks. Webster alike, because I think of the value. I think if Mitrovic is out, I would gamble on one of the Bournemouth guys, because I think they've shown enough defense. I think they're defensive first, mentality. But I think you could look. I think it's hard to look past Brighton. I only think I think Brentford will score. So, and it's a Friday night, so that's. Do you know what? It's the psychology of it, though.
It's something to watch, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think Brentford will score. That's what puts me off Brighton a little bit. But then the reason, I think the game week 12, the 11 fixtures, I'd back the likes of Zuma, but then he has a rubbish 12. And you look at, there aren't many that. I think Bournemouth have probably got the best fixtures if Mitrovic is out. But other than that, I mean, it's hard, isn't it?
So who's your pick at?
Are you really trying? You really go in there?
Which high impact move are you going to make?
Yeah, okay.
If you had to pick
Mitrovic
one player,
out,
right?
I'm going for Smith.
Okay.
If he's not out, because we will know either way. It's I'm not excited about it. Webster.
Okay,
I'm not excited.
That's fair enough. I think if I.
What about you, Ferg?
Well, I think if I'm planning on free hitting in 12, which I still think for me is a distinct possibility. I think I'll go for Dyer for because I think he's got a high chance of a clean sheet in 11 than the Brighton boys, but I do concede that 0.7 more than Dunk. My second choice would be Dunk. I'll probably go Dunk because I think I would only free hit in 12 if Mitrovic and James and that weren't fit, and I maybe had another flag again and stuff.
Well, you never know. We've got a whole round of matches to come. We could quite easily have some more flags and suspensions, couldn't we?
But yeah,
it's worth checking the goal threat of Webster and Dunk because I don't think there's much in it. I mean, I think last season, I think Dunk got 1 goal, Webster got 2 maybe. There wasn't much in it.
I think Webster's just a bit injury prone. Is the only reason why I tend to go for I prefer Dunk. And I only know from playing Sky, Webster was in and out of my team all bloody year because he was injured. But
I mean, look, it's only for like 5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, even then, and then most of the time they're going to be on the bench, right? So it's just really going to be unlucky if suddenly like one of them scores 2 goals and the other one doesn't, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
I feel like we've been talking for 5 weeks about Mark Gahey and Lewis Dunk. So let's move on to the best FPL captain for game week 11.
So, we might as well go game week 12, mightn't we? Really?
Well, we've got 11, and then we got 12.
Yeah, all right,
but first the 11. If we look at the Hub predicted points, Harry Kane is top against Everton, 7.7. Son 7.5. Haaland third, 5.8. Then Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. If we look at oddschecker.com, Haaland is 8-11 on to be any time goal scorer. Harry Kane is even money. Jesus 5-4 and Son 8-5. So that fancies Haaland more than Kane. And then the polls on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. Haaland 61%, Kane 22%, and then a couple for Salah and a couple for Mitrovic. So predicted points. It obviously, kind of recognises that Kane's fixture at home to Everton is really, really good. Recommends it above Haaland. But odds checker and the polls go for Haaland. I think we're probably all on Haaland. Adam, what do you think about the captaincy this week?
I think with the amount of chances Liverpool are conceding, and particularly big chances, we all know about their high line. I can't look past Haaland. I just can't. And I think it'd be hard watching that game on Sunday not having Haaland captain, being one of the few people in the world.
One of the 3 people in the world.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for me, I don't think many will disagree with that.
Rich, anything to add?
Not really. I mean, he only said when I got Kane on the wild card, I thought I was being a clever boy by looking ahead to game week 11 and said I'm going to captain Kane against Everton in game week 11. But since that proclamation, I think Haaland scored about 11 goals. So I mean, it was only 2 weeks ago, and he's just locked the game down, hasn't he? So I just think that having had a full rest in the Champions League, he's definitely going to play. It's a big game. Yeah, that's a sofa job if you don't captain him, isn't it?
I can see Man City.
It's just you're going against roughly, somewhere between 180 and 200% effective ownership in that game. You might find some narrative that suggests it'll pay off, but you're taking a hell of a risk if it can cost you, no matter what your rank is, it costs you 1 million places if you get it wrong.
And you can afford to take a risk in game week. In game week 12. So let's have a look at the captaincy actually for game week 12. We've only got the predicted points up for this. Very interesting ones. This one as well, as you say, it's pretty wide open, a lot of options. Salah, unsurprisingly, is top, 7.3. Trossard is second, 6.2 out of all those players. Kane is third, 6.1. Then Son, 5.8. Callum Wilson is up there, 5.4. Alexis McAllister is up there as well. Obviously, it's this target sort of Forest thing, 5.4. Maddison, 5.4. And then Welbeck, Solanke, Sterling and Dunk, actually, because there's 4 Brighton players in the top 10 or 11, obviously because they're home against Forest there. Really tough one, this one, I think. Rich, come to you first on this one. Firstly, I want to who you think is the best captain, and then who you're likely to captain.
Okay. All right. Well, I do think Salah's still the best captain. So if you still have him and you've got him in on a previous wild card, then I've heard lots of people suggesting earlier this week before last night that he needs to be sold. Yeah, I think that he's the best one, with the fixture against West Ham showing some form. So that doesn't mean I'm going to get him though. I think I will probably get Trossard in if Maddison is booked, but there's only about 20% chance of that happening. I'd be more inclined because I think I'm going to come off Maddison for Saka eventually, but using Trossard along the way looks a nice one move step and allows 2 transfers into the following week, etc. The other move is to sell Kane. I haven't got any accrued value in Kane. I'll possibly get a bit of FOMO if Salah plays well at the weekend, but it will be a decision that will be made on Tuesday afternoon. I'm not sure about it, and actually, that's why we're getting back to the sort of the link in with the James transfer. If you can take $1.5 million out and bank that this week, even though it's for a fairly dull defensive transfer, it just gives you more options with that for self and Adam with that striker downgrade. So I think it's probably I'm probably about 40% likely to get Salah in, I would say right now, but it's just purely an option, and I may duck it.
Okay, Adam, what's your thinking on captaincy for game week 12?
I think with the players I've got at the moment, I'd be likely to go Kane. I just think that he's been so reliable, 8 returns in a row. I think if I think it'll be Kane or Salah for me at the moment. Outside of that, I think Maddison at home to Leeds could be a good option. I won't captain Mitrovic against Villa because I'm gonna have to watch that game anyway. I don't. Yeah, is
it a home game?
No, it's away. It's yeah. I mean, the annoying thing is I'm going to probably end up missing most of the City versus Liverpool game coming back from the Villa game. So maybe watch it on the train or something. But it's still, yeah. That'll be hard work watching that on Sunday. Yeah, it's tough. I think a lot of my captain decision will sort of depend on what happens on the weekend. But at the moment, if I was rolling if I had exactly the same teams I currently have, I'd captain Kane.
Yeah, just purely because of the penalties and the fact he can score anywhere.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He's been under Conte. He's just been so consistent.
I think he'll score against United regardless. Spurs have got recently a really good record of scoring a lot of goals against United, and I don't see it.
And they'll get an opportunity to play on the counter.
Yeah, I can see it being like a 2-2 or something like that, maybe. Yeah. So
agree, and so I just think, and that's what puts me off Salah a little bit, is that Kane's given me no reason to get rid of him so far.
Right.
And I think
that's helped me, mate. Actually, that's really helped me.
Well, he's gone. I think he's gone. Not under the. I don't think Spurs are necessarily playing particularly well, but he's really ground out his points in a way that Salah actually does quite well usually. If you look at it, he's just been very. I mean, over the last 30 games or something under Conte, he's been very consistent, and even if he's had a bad game than the game before, it doesn't necessarily impact him the game after. And I think when I look at the striker options in comparison, like we said with Salah, there's so many good midfielders that I want at the moment that could. So I think unless Salah looks I mean, if he gets a brace versus City and he's playing out of his skin and playing through the centre, it looks like he's got a new lease of life. I will revisit my plan and I'll have a plan to get Salah. But if it's more of the same, or we just don't see the best of him, or he's not looking sharp, I think West Ham is a tough game for them. So, yeah, I think what you've said, Rich, is spot on. Is by doing the James down move, it frees up funds to be able to get Salah. So I think it's good planning because you don't have to do it, and the funds will be useful for maybe another move. Or so I think you're sort of along the same lines as me, because that's what that's what put me off Dyer. I pound for pound preferred Dyer, but it would stop a other move further down the line. So he's almost playing one move in advance. So yeah, I think you've sort of convinced me now. I've just got to decide: do I save the 0.1 and go Webster over Dunk?
Yeah.
Because I know what'll happen if I don't do it.
Yeah.
It'll be that, oh damn, I'm 0.1 off. And or if I do it, Webster will probably get an own goal and get booked and then get injured for the Forest game. Yeah. That'd be the worst, wouldn't it? A red card in the Brentford game, suspended for the Forest game.
There is another option. We haven't mentioned him. I don't know if he made it onto the graphic, but what about Gomez from Liverpool? Because he's going to play. How long is Trent out for? 3-4 weeks?
No, only a couple of weeks. I think.
Is it?
I think he's going to miss about 3 games.
Right, I just think I don't think I'd bring anybody in. That's
Man City, West Ham, and Forest.
Oh no, but you could bring him in and bench him. Maybe I'm not saying he plays, but you could bring Gomez and still save the money. I'm just throwing it in there because you've got a Liverpool player against West Ham, then Forest, and those three fixtures to follow the City game. So it's an option. We just mentioned him.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely worth mentioning, but not for me.
Not for me.
Because I probably want to start him this week and start Gomez. I mean, Gomez's career could be ended by Foden on the weekend.
Yeah, good. I'm looking forward to that actually. So Fergie, has all that rhetoric about Kane, all that Kane love, has that put you off getting Salah? Do you think you might switch up and go for Kane?
I haven't
instead?
got Kane.
Being a Spurs, yeah, but you could get him if you sell.
I'm not going Kane instead of Salah. I'm perfectly happy to hold De Bruyne this week against Liverpool, and then very likely do De Bruyne to Salah. Or I'm still looking at these points, looking at these players. A lot of differential players in here for a free hit for game week 12. I just think I don't know. I just really like the thought of having Trossard, Welbeck, and and Callum Wilson.
What about Son instead of Salah?
Yeah, Son's a good shout as well. You could even do De Bruyne to Son this week for Son home to Everton, and even hop on to Salah in game week 12. Not that I probably
premium
wouldn't do it,
roulette.
Yeah, but you could
Fergie roulette. You never know who's going to be in that premium midfield spot.
You can't sell big game Kev.
No, you can't. Absolutely,
he always performs in these matches.
So just before we look at our teams for the coming game week, then let's do Fergie is a punt. Last week,
my favourite part of the show.
Last week, Scamacca. Boom, under 1% owned. Score.
Is that your first return?
No, my second or third, I think, actually. I had Visser and I had someone else as well. 9 points. He was top scoring forward for the week as well. So I think I should get bonus points for that as well. But I was happy with that. I've picked one this week. It's definitely a targeted play this week. The clues are the team that this player is going to face. They've conceded most shots this season, most shots on target this season, and they're in the bottom 2 for every other defensive stat. This player leads the way for his team for every offensive stat. He's 1.1% owned. His team hasn't really pulled up any trees, but it's very much, a targeting fixture. He's a 5.5 million midfielder. Any quick ideas, guys, before I announce who that is?
Yeah, I think it's either, I would guess, you're targeting Fulham or Forest. So I'd say it's either Billing or one of the Wolves midfielders.
Daniel Podence. He has by far and away the best stats for Wolves so far this season. 9 appearances. He's played every game. Scored 2 goals, had 14 shots, 6 on target, 7 shots in the box. And like I say, he's got the best stats for Wolves by a mile this season. So it's just targeting Forest, really. And that's
what's the next 2 games?
They have Forest, and then I can't remember who. Oh, they away to Palace and home to Leicester. You know what? The next 3 or 4 are pretty good actually. Home to Forest, away to Palace, home to Leicester. So 2 of those 3 are really good, and then away to Brentford. So, yeah, he's 1.1% owned, so he's my punt this week. Not that I'm suggesting for anyone to bring him in, though you could, because I do think he will return this week. Okay, Rich, we've got your team up on screen. Run us through it, and what are you doing?
Okay. It is Pope in goal. Don't have a backup because I was rather hoping Everson would eventually come in. That hasn't happened. Cancelo at the back, Trippier, and at the moment Reece James, but that's highly likely to change. Midfield of Martinelli, Zaha, Maddison, and Foden, which I'm delighted
what
with.
A midfield
and that is fantastic. And up front, Kane, Haaland, and Callum Wilson away at United.
Very nice.
So yeah, pretty happy with the team. So that was why I was, fanning around with the Neco Williams transfer until the James news. But I think given this discussion, it has really helped me. I think my transfer is likely to be James out for, Lewis Dunk will be my favourite at the moment. But I'll have a look at Webster and possibly the Palace chap as well. So I think getting a Brighton, as someone said last season, very good quote, good players, good teams. Brighton are a good team. I think if you look at the ticker on the hub, they're ranked 6th for defence if you sort it by defence. So I like Brighton. I like their new manager just on a couple of games. So I think Dunk can come in for James, leaving me with about 1.6 million in the bank and 2 transfers for next week. So I think that's quite a nice move. And I do think I've always played, if you get a flag player, get him out. Especially when you've got a blank game week coming. The reason I made the Mitrovic move was he was flagged. I'll still continue to play that way. So I think it's right to remove a flag player this week.
Very nice. And you've also got Andreas and Mings on the bench as well, if anything happens, and Williams. So you're fine for a couple of game weeks.
Yeah.
Well done, Rich. Well played. Adam, do you want to run us through your team?
Yeah. So I have got my team that I'm going to be picking this week. I'm going to play Pope and Trippier away at United. Don't love it, but a bit stuck on that one. I've got Cancelo away at Liverpool. Not seeing a clean sheet there. And then I've got Reece James, who I will likely sell. I've then got Maddison, Bowen, Zaha, Martinelli, Kane, Haaland captain, and potentially Mitrovic. I'm thinking I'm probably similar lines to Rich. James out for a Brighton defender. Possibly Palace as well, but there's a few options there. But I want to get money out of the defense and have money and flexibility. So if I need Salah, I can do something. If not, I can. The interest rates are high, aren't they? So maybe use that 1.6 million and benefit from that. I think that's the plan. And then I want 2 frees for game week 12. I will use them if I need to for Salah, but if I don't need to, I will probably do Neco Williams to Gahey or something along those lines, and then take 2 into 13.
So you've sent me your team here, including Gahey. So I think you've already kind of messed around with it and made a transfer.
Oh, did I?
Do
you know?
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm terrible on the app. It's
okay.
I've made moves in advance.
You've made moves in advance just to kind of see what
back.
it is exactly. Yeah. No, it's fine.
So everyone ignored. Someone's just put in the chat, and I think it's Dal. Dal put this in the chat, so I've got to mention it. He's put, "Would you rather watch Villa or be stuck in a lift with Fergie?" I think it's a no-brainer. I'd definitely rather be stuck in a lift with Fergie at the moment.
Even if Villa are playing well.
I mean, I've watched it. I've given Villa a chance the last 3 games. Oh my God! So. Yeah, and I'll take the lift.
Very nice. And I loved Magic69, his comment about my punt. He says he does have potential. Very, very good. I like that. Well played.
That's
good. My team is now up on screen. I haven't even clicked that I've got Ward on my bench. I hadn't clicked who will, he'll definitely start, won't he? But I've got Pope, but I'll probably start Ward, actually, I think. I've got Trippier, Cancelo, and saying James. Zaha, De Bruyne, Martinelli and Maddison, so I'm really happy with that. Solanke, happy with him this week. Haaland captain and Mitrovic, but I've got James flagged, I've got Mitrovic flagged, I've got Digne definitely flagged, not playing, and I've got Emerson, who doesn't look like he's... The lineups are actually out for West Ham this evening. I haven't looked yet. It'd be interesting to see if Creswell plays. It may mean Emerson may get a run out on the weekend. But yeah, I'm in a bit of trouble because at the moment... I can, if Mitrovic is fit, I can field 11 with a transfer. But if he's not, I'm in a bit of stuck. So I suppose my...
You got two frees or one?
Oh, one, yeah. So my decision I have to make, I suppose, is whether to take a hit this week, which I don't really want to do, or just make the one transfer, scrape 11 out, play the free hit, or not next week, and then go into game week 13. But yeah, this is why I'm talking about free hitting. I'm not just saying it for everyone, but I'm in a bit of trouble here because I've got four players.
I don't think you need to free hit this. I think this team's good enough. There's nothing wrong with the midfield at all.
No, I agree with that.
Mitrovic, if he's not back this weekend's probably going to be back midweek. I mean,
Andreas is fine.
I'd get rid of Luca Dean just because he's not going to be back, is he? He's out for a while, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And I could do.
Yeah, so you absolutely, if you've only got one player who's definitely not going to play, get rid of him because Emerson might play and James might play. So definitely work on the Dean out move as part of a hit or as a one transfer move.
Well, I can do Luca Dean to as high as Dyer even, and then I've still got enough money to do De Bruyne to Salah in game week 12. So I've worked that out, which was my kind of initial plan. I think because I'm just looking at all these flags, I've been panicking a little bit, but we'll see.
I think you'll be all right. Maybe one hit across the 2 weeks will be better than saving the free hit then for the.
I think Andreas coming in if need be is fine, and you'd have 11 then, wouldn't you? Even if Mitrovic is out, if you just swap Dean over.
I hope. I'm just thinking about him 12. I think he's fine for this week, but I think in 12 you might be a bit, without a single hit, you may struggle with Dean, James, and Mitrovic. But I think Mitrovic is going to be okay, right? I think by Wednesday he's going to be okay.
I think so.
So how many have you got for game week 12 as things stands before making a transfer?
So this is
Pope, Trippier,
Cancelo, Zaha, De Bruyne. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So Zaha, yeah.
I got
so
10
Cancelo
plus
won't
load of flagged players. So.
But in game week 12, you'd have Pope, Trippier, which we wouldn't have any other defenders. So that's 2 players. You got Zaha 3, no De Bruyne, no Martinelli, Maddison 4, Solanke 5, Andreas 6, and potentially Mitrovic or James 7, 8. So let's say 7.
It's rough.
So yeah, it is.
So
is it free hit worthy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it probably depends what happens on the weekend in terms of if we get news. James may suddenly make a comeback, or Mitrovic may suddenly make a comeback. But
yeah, I think you don't want to sell James because you want to hope he recovers, because then you don't have to spend your free hit. It's a different scenario for you because of the flagged players. Yeah. I would make one of those minor bench defender transfers. I mean, you could get rid of Emerson and Digne, and just turn them into Duncan Guehi or something. So it just gives you those players for game week 12. That when you're in a better position to ride out the blank.
I'm excited for the blank as well. That's my problem. Is I hope Maddison gets injured if I can get 11 out, because I would love to do Maddison to Trossard, because I really fancy Trossard for game week 12.
Yeah, but Fergie with if you just talk to Ben, right? If you look at the fact there's 18 or 17 matches postponed, they've all got to be rescheduled. You've got all the cup games. There's going to be this sequence of games where if you haven't got that free hit, you're going to suffer after Christmas.
We'll see after I've gained 80 plus points next week with a
keep it, buddy.
So what he's saying is basically want a free hit for Trossard.
Just to bring in Trossard.
Come on, he's done all right, but free
I'm not going to do that.
Trossard,
I want to do Maddison to Trossard onto Foden is what I want to do, and I might do that with a hit. I don't know. I'll see.
The problem is, unless you're captaining, let's say you go the Salah option, unless you're captaining Trossard for the hit, a 4-point in and a 4-point out, he has to get 8 to, which is, if you look at the predicted points, he won't be predicted more than 8, even against Forest. So let's say he gets 11, you've only really gained 3 points, and the chances are you're going to get less than 11. So I just don't think it's worth it. He's low owned anyway.
That's the point. I think you got massive upside. I'm going for it. Yeah, but I'm getting him in. I'm even captaining him.
Okay. I think free hit for Trossard is great advice. Would you back that up? Should Should we just conclude three here
for
Trossard?
Trossard, Welbeck, Callum Wilson.
Yeah. We'll have to
do
a pod just to
cover.
do your team
Anyway,
reveal.
before we move over, John Crowley just put in the chat. He said he was on the bus earlier, and the guy next to me said, "What are you watching?" I said, "I'm watching Fergie and the boys' top violin moments." To which he responded, "I never knew the Black Eyed Peas played violin." It was a nice little anecdote there. Thank you for that, John. Competition time for our YouTube watchers. Firstly, game week 10. I've got a confession to make. I didn't actually check if we had a winner, but it was Shao Cancelo. I will go back and check, and if we had a winner, I'll reveal it next week. But for this week's competition, and for a chance to win one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs, you need to like this video. So press the like button, make sure you are subscribed, and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in game week 11. Rich, can I ask you first, who will be the top point scorer? Can't go for, Haaland or Kane. It's got to be someone else.
Oh, crikey. Remind myself who else has got a good fixture. Son, then.
Son home to Everton.
Good shout. Son's a good shout.
Yeah.
Adam, who are you going for this week?
He's got form against this club. So I'm going for Phil Foden. Really fancy him against Liverpool this week.
You're right, buddy. Hope you're right.
Yeah, I'd sort of hope I'm wrong, but I did. If there wasn't all the flags up, I would have possibly done Bowen to Foden this week to Trossard like a daisy chain. But there's just too much going on for it not to be worthwhile.
Do you put anything? There's all these comments about him being exhausted by Pep. Did you hear about that?
He'd have a nap, a power nap will sort him right out. He'll be all right.
No,
I think
he's okay.
Weird, wasn't it?
I just have a quick look at the fixtures. I think I am going to go for. I'm going to go for Edouard against Villa. I think that he started the Leicester. Started the last three. I think he's looked pretty sharp. So a bit of a left field punt, but I would go for Edouard. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to do it. Mug over Rich's shoulder can be yours. And that is it for us for this week. Thank you so much for everyone who joined in the chat. For those who will watch it back, and for those listening on the podcast version, your support is much, much appreciated. FPL Finding Glory said, I think I said Cancelo last week. Check, I can't be sure. I will check for you. No worries about that. And I will publish next week. Just a reminder, our new My Team feature is now live to use yourself to pick, plan, and optimise. And if you're Adam, you will pick and plan and then send in it as your current team of those game weeks in advance.
I forgot I did that.
Our new community.
I wonder if my team scored so high.
Exactly.
It's just higher than I thought it was.
Our new community feature is also now live on the app and on the website. If you haven't checked it out, you can go and chat FPL with everyone in there. It's absolutely superb. So go and check that out on the app or on the website. And there's still 30% off membership to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk if you haven't joined already. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you?
Hopta Stats on Twitter.
Someone said earlier, where can I find Adam's potato shop, Hopta's Tats? I quite like that as well. That was very good.
Yeah.
And Rich, thank you so much. Where can people get hold of you?
On @Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter as well.
And don't forget that Rich exclusively reveals his team each and every game week pre-deadline on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. 30% off membership. Click the top link below if you want to join us. My Twitter handle is @FFH_Fergie. And this podcast and video will be in the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We'll be back next week, either Thursday evening, even though there are matches on Thursday evening, or potentially on Friday. We'll have to see. Previewing game week 13. There will only be 4 game weeks left, chaps, until the World Cup. How crazy is that?
Wow.
By the time we get to this point next week, we wish everyone a great game week 11 and 12. Enjoy the feast of football. Do you know there's 9 days now in the next 11 have Premier League football on. Incredible.
I know.
Enjoy
relentless.
Enjoy the feast, everyone, and may all your arrows be green. Goodbye for now.